So what is composting? So that's an opportunity for us to take your food scraps. We collect them on a weekly basis or more if necessary from your school. And then we take them to a local facility to process them. And during this process, we mix those food scraps with local hay, wood chips, and leaves. And then we let these tiny microorganisms get to work, generate heat, and help us break down these materials to make some healthy compost to eventually use on local soils. So with this process, we're really thankful for customers like St. Patrick's who are more than willing and excited to give us their food scraps so that we can make this happen and, support a closed loop system in our area. So Sam, I'm going to go ahead and have you introduce yourself.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. My name is Sam Mason, and I'm the assistant head of lower school at St. Patrick's Episcopal Day School, and I'm also the director of sustainability. And would you like me to just continue on, or?
Yeah, go ahead.
Perfect. All right. So part of my role is director of sustainability, and just to take kind of a broad strokes here, as an independent school, I think just having students that are engaged citizens and thinking about the world and thinking about helping people is something that is core to our mission. So sustainability is crucial to that. And composting, we think we always talk about, it's one of the ways that we're actually doing the work. As a school that focuses a lot on environmental justice and environmental equity, I think that throwing our trash out for other communities to deal with is not something that would be following through with our promise and our mission. So we've spent the last few years striving to have a 99.5% waste-free lunchroom. It's something that we talk about in missions tours, and we talk about a lot with our families on how important it is. And it's something that Compost Crew has done an amazing job in helping us achieve and strive for. So that's a little bit of the why behind it. We talk about that with students as well. We talk about how important it is that when we throw things away, it's especially food. It turns into this leachate that seeps into the landfills and seeps into the water filtration systems around communities. Often communities with less color, often communities of color. That seriously impacts people's lives, and how important it is that we take ownership over the things in our school and the things that we can control. So composting at St. Patrick's. You have a picture of our school garden here. This is almost like I'll start with the flowers and the beautiful ending, and then we can end with kind of the nitty gritty. So at St. Patrick's, we do have the privilege of having a nice garden, but I think a lot of this we were able to get this garden because a lot of the excitement around sustainability. So we are in our 4,000 square foot garden. All of the compost that we have is from the compost that we make. So it's all at the end of the year when we ask Compost Crew, we ask our composting vendor to come help us bring us some compost. This is the compost that we spread in our garden. Now, if you go to the next slide, I can share a little bit of the nitty gritty of how we compost. All right, so it can seem like a little bit of a daunting task of how this works. So I'll kind of walk you through the steps that we took to start composting at St. Patrick's. So often I tell schools or organizations, like, one really nice thing to do is to visit another place that's already doing it. So we visited a couple other places. For us, it was schools. Since then, we've actually had 14 schools and other organizations visit our composting site to see how we do it. So we learned from a couple other places, and over the last 7 years, we've been paying it forward and showing places how we compost. Our first step that we did was setting up our bins, and we wanted to be really thoughtful, to be consistent in setting up our bins. We went with a 3-bin system, which is pretty common, and we have these same colors. You'll see yellow, black, and green throughout our whole school. Yellow is compost, black is trash, and green is recycling. Now you'll see that the black is trash, and the hole is only about this big. That's because that's all that goes in there. So one thing that we found was really helpful was to keep the lids the right size of what can actually go in there. So nothing other than butter packets and peanut butter packets go in our trash cans. So that's the hole, that's the size. And that's something that our kids help design, getting kids involved. As many different stakeholders as you can get involved in this process is really helpful. So at the end of our lunch period, you'll open that up and there'll be like 12 butter packets, and that's all. Everything else is composted. And then on certain days where we'll have like occasionally we'll have like a milk container and not a compostable one, and that'll go in our recycling. But a really simple system. So I think the simpler, the better. Our signage was the signs are actually on the back, but you can't see it. But I think having really clear signage is important. Each year we try and actually take pictures. These cans don't have them. We always encourage schools to take pictures of what's actually going in the cans, so that the kids know exactly what can go in it. So the signage, coloring, and keeping it really simple are the three things that we tell schools to make their system simple. Another piece that we found really helpful as we kind of worked through composting was, again, getting as many people involved as possible. Our facilities team is responsible for taking the compost out. Our compost crew comes and picks it up. So getting them involved early and often was important. Our CFO and our business office are also early people to get involved, depending on whether you're a school or a different sort of business. For us, we were actually able to save a lot of money when we first started working and started composting. We were able to it was a year where you're going to renegotiate your trash bill. Is a great time to start compost. There's no bad time. But when you're going to renegotiate your compost, your trash bill is a great time. We actually saved from our trash bill $34,000 a year by composting. Just to dive a little more into the logistics here, at our school, some schools have a scrape system. We have a system where everything is compostable. We want to keep it as simple as possible. So plates, milk cartons, forks, knives, cups are all made of plants. All of those are compostable, so they go right in the compost. I know, so again, some places have a scraping system. We're keeping it as simple as possible. Everything is composted. Another piece that we found is really helpful at schools, especially if you're at a school, is learning more about the process. So we take field trips throughout the year to the different sites where our compost goes. We talk about how our students aren't going to really love what they're doing if they don't understand it. So we go out to the composting facility and we meet the people that sort the compost. So our guys know that John sorts the compost, and if you put something in the wrong bin, he's the one who has to clean it up. So our kids know they're part of the process, and they see this full thing, which is really nice. I think Compost Crew is really great in helping us figure out how often we need to do a pickup. So we, as a school, that we use about 900 gallons of can space a week. So we do 2 pickups. So we have a Tuesday and a Friday pickup, and that's been totally fine for us. We don't produce a lot on Saturday and Sunday. We produce really small amounts. So the days in between Friday and Tuesday are okay for us. I'd recommend. I think personally for schools, I'd recommend, if you're producing trash every day, to do at least 2 a week. Two seems to be a really nice number for us. So yeah, I think overall, some of our keys to success have been including as many people as possible, including lots of stakeholders. I think it was a money saver, so making sure that you have that bottom line all settled before you move forward. And having everything set up before you start. The easiest way to kill a composting program, I think, is to not have all your ducks in a row, not have everything lined up. So we made sure that we had everyone set up before we started. In our cafeteria, to jump around a little bit, our cafeteria, our school is 500 students. So we actually have 4 of these setups. We have 3 of these setups in our main lunchroom and another one on our second campus. So at all times we have 50 students eating, or it can get closer to 60, and they'll disperse throughout these 3 setups. And then at our other campus, we have a 4th setup for our composting. But overall, I could not recommend our Compost Crew more. We've had a really fantastic experience.
Awesome. Thank you so much. We really appreciate you. And I love hearing about, just how easy it can be. I think the system with the lids is really awesome and is helpful for children who, they're used to fitting shapes and, using that as a way or a playful way to, sort their scraps. Now, it is really important to keep faculty involved, letting them know what goes inside of the bins, helping guide students. We do recommend signage, and it's great that you guys have that on your bins. And what we do is we make sure that we let staff know what does and does not belong in our bins. I'm going to pass this over to Kathleen, our commercial accounts manager, to walk us through what is and is not accepted in our bins.
Hi, thanks, Carly. Yes, so with Compost Crew, we're really excited to partner with a number of commercial compost facilities in the area. So that means because we're partnered with commercial facilities, we can take any and all food scraps. If you're familiar with composting in your backyard, you've probably heard, don't put meat, don't put dairy, it's going to attract pests and get stinky and gross. However, since we have these commercial partners, we're able to take meat and dairy. And that's just based on the way that the piles are managed at these larger facilities. So any and all food scraps, if it was once food, then we can accept it for composting. In addition to food scraps, we can take soiled cardboard, coffee grounds, any type of BPI certified packaging, serviceware, so plates, knives, and forks, as long as they're labeled compostable. We do recommend looking out for the BPI certified compost label on products, or also looking out for ASTM D6400 certified compostable, just to make sure that it's breaking down fully into high quality compost, as opposed to breaking down into something we don't want to put back on our soils, so any kind of plastic. And then that moves on to our not accepted list. Any kind of waxy or glossy paper. Often that shine that you see on like coated paper plates or coffee cups is petroleum based. So we can't accept that for composting because as it breaks down into small bits of plastic, which makes for a not a very healthy soil amendment. So we don't want that included in our composting. Any type of traditional plastic as well. So the black plastic bags or gloves that you see pictured here. One thing that we see a lot is produce stickers. We do recommend taking those off and putting those in the trash before you put your apple core or banana peel into the compost bin. And then anything that could potentially harbor any type of bacteria that could make our crew sick. So anything that comes from the bathroom, including paper towels or any type of used tissues or animal waste, that is some of the stuff that we cannot accept. And then we do have a full list on our website showing any and all of the items that we can or cannot accept for composting through the program.
Thank you, Kathleen. So we're going to go ahead and move forward. And if you all have any FAQ, we're here to answer any for you.
I noticed a few questions in the chat.
Awesome. Let's look at those.
Yeah, I can take a couple. Is that okay to keep going?
Yes, go ahead.
Logistics, as far as the logistics of actually getting the cans from inside the area, and again, a lot of what this is going to be directly relatable to schools. I think that like if even other organizations could also take similar approaches. Our facility, because we don't have liners. We actually have our facilities team they take the bags from inside and take them outside into the composters that are provided by Compost Crew. So Compost Crew provides us with the bins that are outside, and we take the bags from inside to outside so we can quickly rotate them. And that way we don't have compost sitting inside overnight. So they gave us the nice bins with the weighted top so they stay down. And our facilities teams moves them from inside to out. And then there's another question that says, Sam, can you talk more about how involved the students are in the program? So we have a few different sustainability teams. So we have second and third grade sustainability teams and fourth and fifth grade sustainability teams. And sometimes they'll make, if people aren't composting right, they'll make signs to make sure that people are doing the right thing. We'll have compost jobs in classrooms, or we'll have, earth saver jobs in classrooms. We have other sort of like activities that go on throughout the year. There's 1 month where fifth grade sees how little food scraps they can produce. So they have a metal container and like a little weight scale in the middle of their table. So they weigh their food every week to kind of figure out exactly how much they're throwing out each week. I do think that our field trip to the composting facility is one of the most impactful. I think seeing that process firsthand is incredible. And I know the composting facility out in PG County, they now even have a little tractor to take students around it. So they love having field trips, and the kids get to put yellow coats on, and they even dig through the compost. One year, a kid found a shoe in one of the compost bins. It was a big moment for our community. They were pumped about it.
Sam, could you talk a little bit about, just as far as funding, how easy or hard it was to get approval to pay for the composting program?
Yeah, I'll talk about a little bit about what it looked like when we first started. So when we first started, it was kind of getting that original funding for composting was, we met with actually a few vendors to talk through how much it would be. And then we were able to figure out how much less it could be for our trash company, right? So I think that figuring out, the yearly cost of a vendor, and Compost Crew gives you, gave us a great rate, plus the bags, minus what you can get from the trash bill. So compost bags are expensive. For us, the compost bags plus the vending is still less than what we would be paying for that extra trash. So I think being able to calculate how much less trash you're going to be able to take in and talking to your vendors there is a really nice step. I think our school is also committed to doing the right thing, and our CFO is able to say, this is something aligned with our mission. It's also something that's great for admissions and to bring families in. So it's mission aligned. It's great for, families coming in. It's great for our goals for our students. And it does save us money, but I think even if it didn't, it'd be something that our school would be willing to do.
Thank you. Could you talk a little bit about like some events that you've had at your school that get the community and parents and students involved?
Yeah, absolutely. So we get a big pile of compost from our composting facility during Earth Day, and that's when we spread our compost all over our gardens and get everyone to. That's when we plant trees and we plant bushes and pollinator gardens, and we talk a lot about that compost and what it does. We also have a small like waste diversion pile at the garden, and that's a really nice way for kids to learn more about it. Our kind of like waste diversion is basically we have a couple areas in the school where we have some turning composters, and I think a nice thing to do as you start, there's like really nice turning composters for like $74.99 on Amazon. And if you're getting a couple of those around your school, so kids can put them in, throw some leaves in, talk about the process, and learn a little bit more about the compost. Sometimes it's not graded to grow plants in, but that's okay. It's more for waste diversion, and then we send all the big stuff to Compost Crew for those bigger items to really get really minimize your carbon footprint.
Awesome, thank you. Did we have any other questions?
So Carly, if you like, I took a few notes with some of the questions I've heard from schools and thought I could address them here.
Yes, please.
So the biggest question, or one of the most common questions I have received, is how many bins do I need? The answer is it really does depend. And some of the things we want schools to think about are whether or not just the back of the house is going to be separating food scraps, so the cafeteria staff, or if it's going to be open to the entire school. You're going to want to think about how many people are eating meals on site per day, and also how many meals as well. I'm sorry, like thinking of breakfast, lunch, and dinner, or is it just the lunch period? So those are some things to think about when you're trying to determine where to start. I would say that a lot of our school partners get by with 1 to 2 bins, 1 to 2 65-gallon bins with once a week collection. And then some of the larger schools who are feeding more meals during the day have 6 to 10 65-gallon bins with pickup about 3 days a week. So that is like a residential school. So students are there all day eating 3 meals a day. So that's what you would want to start with for a larger school. And then we often get questions about, budget and everything. So I just want to share that pricing is based on how many bins you have on site and how frequently these bins are emptied. So it really does depend on the service level that you need to set up to have a successful program. But that's something that we can work with schools on to help you figure out where you should start. And then also the long-term goals too of the program. And one more thing I also want to share is, so composting is a great option instead of putting food scraps in a landfill. But I've talked to a lot of schools that also think of ways to reduce the amount of food waste that they're having at the end of the day anyway. And a big thing that I find really exciting and also really successful are share tables in the cafeteria. So if a student, let's say they get an apple in the lunch line and then they decide, you know what, I'm full, I don't want to eat this apple. They can set that apple on a table for another student or even faculty member or staff member to have later as their snack. So anything that is unopened or obviously uneaten, anything that's still consumable. It's a neat way to share food so that it doesn't have to go into the compost bin. It can feed another human. It also is really nice if there's an option for like a small refrigerator for stuff like yogurt, cheese sticks, and things like that. So that's just one thing I've seen in some schools where they're working to reduce the amount of things that they need to put in the compost bin. So before it gets to be waste.
Can I add one more thing to that?
Yeah.
I think another like tip I would give is just keep things as simple as possible with your food vendor. So when we first started, we had a lot of teachers that were anxious about various objects and keeping track of them. And, student transitions from class to class is so packed, right? It's so quick. So one thing that we did to like ease some of that anxiety and make it simpler for students is to simplify what a lot of the things in our lunchroom. So we changed all of our salad dressings from packets to big jugs. Our ketchup and mustard was little packets, and now it's big squeeze bottles. So I think we probably had like 400 or 500 different packets every day that was going in the trash, and we were able to get that down again just to butter and peanut butter. So just to simplify as much as possible.
Thanks for adding that, Sam. And I also want to add, a lot of times the adults are more nervous about starting the composting journey than the kids are. To be honest, they're really open to learning. If you think about volunteering too, they like to be hall monitors. They like to be safety guards. So getting kids involved isn't as difficult as it may seem. They actually are really excited and motivated to be involved in the good that happens at their school. Did we have any other questions? All right. If not, I'm going to go ahead and close us out. I thank you all for being here, Sam, especially for sharing your story. I love the work that you do at your school. We need more people like you. And we hope that this kind of clarified any questions that you had, any worries that you may have had moving forward with your composting journey. We have a wonderful team that is available to help you decide how you want to compost at your school. And I want to, thank you again for all joining us on this webinar.